What's going on, YouTubers? This is Mopar Man 1978. I'm out here doing another video. Nice day out so far. I'm going to talk about stock Slant6 upgrades. I know a lot of other stuff's been covered on other channels, but I just wanted to let you know what I've done in mine. We got my 225 Slant6 here, 1-barrel Carter. As you can see, I've got the points distributor that I had rebuilt by Joe's Distributor Repair on Facebook. He does a really good job. If you need any distributor, doesn't matter if it's an old antique one, clear up to modern Mopar electronic ignition. He'll rebuild it for you, modify it however to fit your engine. Just call him up, talk to him. Got a what is it? A Msd Super Coil for points. I disguised it with my old hot rodder trick. Take your favorite pop can or beer can and you cut it out and wrap it around your coil. Kind of dress it up a little bit. I also use this right here. Vacuum advanced line. I don't use the rubber lines anymore. I got tired of rubber here in Missouri, dry rots. This stuff is a special rubbery type plastic made for leaf blowers, weed eaters, lawnmowers. It's made to run fuel through. I run it for vacuum lines. It kind of dresses it up. It's because it's like a neon greenish yellow color. It kind of looks cool, looks something different. Anyway, I got my Msd 8mm wires. And then something else I did was I went back to the stock 60s valve cover. I didn't have the quote-unquote Hemi Pcv valve, and they are too expensive. Aftermarket ones are too expensive online. So what I did was I don't know if you can see it right here. This lip would normally come straight up. Well, what I did is I came through here ever so many spots, snipped it a little bit, brought a hammer in, tapped it, I ground on it. This is before I put the valve cover on. Tapped it, curved this lip in, and then welded up the seams. And then I just went and got one of these Mr. Gasket seals. Slides right down in there, nice and snug. That way it's not going to leak. Squish it down on there. And then, because I didn't want to use one of the old noisy Pcv valves, I found one online and then looked it up and went and bought it at O'Reilly's. This one's for a Chevy. It has that tiny little hole in there. There's nothing inside the Pcv valve, and it flows the same amount of vacuum as the Chrysler one, but you don't have to listen to that annoying buzzing or rattling, and it just slides right in. Another little upgrade. And instead of the factory painted breather, I went and bought a chrome aftermarket one that looks just like it's factory for the Slant6. Went and got some copper fuel line. Made my, and I'm gonna at some point, probably in this spot here or this spot over here, I'm gonna cut it so I can put an inline filter in there. But on the Slant6, when I had the head off, I had it inspected by my buddy in Harrison, Arkansas' machine shop. Rick Cross, Premier Machine Shop. He, when I had the head all apart, he hot tanked it, magnafluxed it, inspected the valves, cleaned up the valves for me, reseated them, did all that work for me. Shaved 50 thousandths off the head, and I mean, it might give it a slight increase in power. But it's got the stock Carter 1-barrel carburetor, stock 1-barrel intake on the head and on the intake and the exhaust manifold. I cleaned up the ports, gasket matched all the ports, cleaned up the bowls inside the head, basically like in the videos like Uncle Tony did. I got a lot of that stuff at the house here that I do a lot of the stuff myself, but it's made for maximum flow as it's going to get for stock parts. The other thing I did was down here, this exiting port on the manifold, it's right around 1.998 or exactly 2 inch, give or take. What I did was I got rid of the crossover, the heat flap inside for maximum flow, and I didn't want to have to listen to that thing flop back and forth. And besides that, the spring was broke, and then that it also seized up the shaft that goes across it. It all seized up, so when I had it apart, I got rid of all that crap, so it flows a lot better. Then we'll walk down here and I'll show you what I did to the exhaust. I had a muffler shop in Harrison, about 30-40 miles down south of me here. Right here, I went online and I found a part number from Walker Exhaust Parts, and measured the like I said, I measured the inner diameter of the exiting port on my exhaust manifold, and found this one here. Took the measurements. The inner diameter is, I got this set for exactly 2 inches on the caliper. The inner diameter of the flange is just I'd say about 2 1/4. A little bit bigger than the exhaust port, exiting port on the manifold anyway. Now, is the holes on this just a little bit wider than what's on the manifold? Yeah, but what I do is I line it up, and I use grade 8 bolts from Fastenal with all this hardware and stuff, and then what I do is I use one of these right here. These are for V8s, but mainly for the big blocks for the exhaust manifold. You go from the gasket goes from the exhaust pipe flange to the bottom of the exhaust manifold. These will interchange. What I do is since a lot of these are stamped really thin metal, and then they compress the exhaust fiber, the gasket part, into this, what you get, if you look on the back side of this, you'll see, let's get this light a little bit better here. You see these little holes where they punctured holes in the metal part of the gasket for the composites gasket stuff to basically seat to. Well, what happens is right here on the inner side of the lip, after a while, even no matter how tight you get it, especially if you're going to use a stock exhaust pipe from the factory, is what it starts to do, if there's any weak spots, especially around the inside of this gasket, is it gets a hot spot and it starts burning through this paper material, because all these little perforated holes are weak spots in the gasket, and eventually you'll have mainly a gasket leak right here, not so much around maybe here by the bolt, but it's always the weak spot around the other parts of the gasket. So what I did was, to cure that, is I buy, just like Nick on Nick's Garage, I get the copper Permatex 700 degree spray for like head gaskets, stuff like that, and I use it on all my exhaust manifold gaskets, header gaskets, even the intake gasket / exhaust manifold gasket for the Slant6s, since the manifolds go right next to the intake manifold ports. I spray a good coat on it, even around inside the lip here and on everything else. Get a real good coat. I let this dry for a day or two out in the sun to make sure it dries, and when it's dry, you know it's not going to be sticky anymore. Flip it over, and I give the other side a really good coat, and I do the same thing. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. It takes a little bit. Maybe if you had a shop or something with a heater going where you could blow hot air on it, it would probably speed up the process, but I don't have that. Anyway, once it's fully cured and you can touch it and it's not sticky and coming off on your fingers or anything, I go back over it when I'm getting ready to actually bolt up the exhaust gaskets on the exhaust manifold, whatnot. I go over it with a thin coat, even thin coat of the copper Permatex gasket sealant in the squeeze tube. It's a double. Am I going overboard with it? Maybe. I don't know, but I've always had good luck with it. And then just torque your bolts down like you're supposed to. And I've never had any exhaust leaks. I know a lot of people will just take the gasket as it is by itself right out of the box or the bag and just put it right on and bolt it right up and go. But after a while, you got to replace the gasket because it burns through. Anyway, back to this pipe. I don't know the part number, but this all matches up. And like I said, I use grade 8 bolts from Fastenal. I use the anti-rust ones. It looks like it's got that brass / gold coating on it so it don't rust up. Anyway, I had the muffler shop run the pipe under the car, and I wanted, kind of like some of the new cars today, since I'm only running a single exhaust, I wanted that dual exhaust look, but I also wanted it to be functional. So, sorry. What I did is had the muffler shop guy take a separate piece of pipe, and as you can see, he bent it to fit both sides of the car out back. Came in here, cut a hole right in the middle with a cutting torch. Then he had to custom bend a piece of pipe like this right here. This fits on here, but at the time when he put it all together for me, I didn't know it, but he kind of, when he put it on, the pipe was slightly bent to one side, maybe an inch. Well, that causes the exhaust to only flow out one side and not so much out the other. So especially like during the winter time when it's sitting there idling and you can see the steam come out the exhaust pipe, you'll have more of it or all of it come out one side, and I didn't want that. I wanted it evenly. So that, since I took the Slant6 and stuff out and getting ready to put the V8 and stuff in here, but the V8's gonna have to wait. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the V8 rear end in, the 8 3/4. I still have my 904 automatic for the Slant6 still in the car. I'm gonna run the Slant6 for a while until I get the V8 built. And I got that. I got a buddy already build my 998 full-out racing automatic transmission for the Dart as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, since I got the welder and the grinder and all that stuff, I'm going to measure this, realign it, because this piece of pipe actually bends and goes up over the rear end and down to here. And then from here, this is the best muffler I found to run for Slant6s. I mean, you can run whatever you want, but most of the exhausts out there, except for maybe, I don't know, maybe the Flowmaster 40 is a little overkill for the Slant6. I mean, it's got somewhat rumble, but it's too hollow for me. It just seems, you get the inline 6. I mean, I like the Slant6s and the sounds of the Slant6s, don't get me wrong, but if you put the wrong muffler on it, it makes it sound like it's an import, sound like it's got one of them fucking stupid fart mufflers on it that sound like somebody farting through a kazoo. But anyway, especially when you rev it up or you're on high RPM going down the road. But this is a Flowtech Afterburner muffler. It's for street and strip, full out competition, whatever. It's heavily duty welded. It's divided in the middle, but as you can see, I got comes straight here in the middle. What it does is the pipe goes through this open chamber part here, through the divider and into here, and stops about halfway. And then this one does the same thing in the opposite direction, since it's off to one side instead of the center. But this pipe that goes through here is actually, I don't know if you can see it. Let's get in the sun here. Shine some light down in there. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's got some perforated little hole, like little louvers in there. Kind of like what some of the glass packs have. Well, while this thing is idling, and I used to have this on the car, it's with that functional fake looking dual I don't know what you want to call it, the dual exhaust pipes out the back. It actually sounded like a stock V8 sitting there, a rumbly V8 sitting there idling with maybe a little bit of a cam, and I don't know. But it sounded really good. I got a lot of comments on it. A lot of people loved it. They said it sounded great. When you get on it, it's still got some of that, a little bit of that V8 rumble, but then you kind of can tell it's not a V8. And at the same time, you can definitely tell it's got some inline 6 sound to it. But so that's what I run on the Dart. After the modifications, it runs really well. One thing I noticed, it could be also due to the exhaust manifolds on the Slant6s are known to crack. I think it's a combination, a little bit of everything, including the built-up of heat not being able to leave them in the manifold and go through the exhaust pipe, because the factory exhaust pipe's a lot smaller and it restricts it, so it retains a lot more heat. That and just wear and tear, and heating up and cooling and whatever. This, I noticed the engine runs a lot cooler. I mean, it still gets up to normal operating temperatures, but I don't have all the problems like I had before. I don't have a problem with the gaskets burning out, and I did make sure the gasket surfaces on the manifold and this pipe flange was all flat. Even on the factory piece I used to have, the manifold was flat, this flange was flat. It still burnt through. And then a lot of times what I would do is I did a test. I ran the car one night when I still had the factory exhaust on it, pulled over on the interstate, looked underneath the hood. The manifold was glowing cherry red. I meant bright red. Well, when I put this new exhaust system on, I did the same test, and I noticed it wasn't glowing nowhere near like it used to, which means it's flowing better, it's not getting as hot. But that's my experience. Like I said, I don't know what the part number on this is. I could probably try to look it up again if anybody wants to know. If anybody has any questions on my mods. The other thing I'm going to show you too is the air cleaner. Let's go back to the front of the Dart, to the Slant6. Okay, so this right here is an Edelbrock 10-inch air cleaner. This was originally set up to only run on a like Holly 2-barrel with the wide base plate, or Edelbrocks or Hollies, or 4-barrel, stuff like that. Well, at the time I didn't have a welder or anything, but I did have access to lots of sheet metal. I bought like 2 sheets of 4x8 sheet metal, two different gauges, one thicker than the other one. The thicker one is going to be going for the patch panels on the floor that I got to repair all the rust. The thinner one's going to be for the sheet metal on the actual body. But anyway, I used the thinnest stuff I could. Sealed this all up, and if you look on the bottom side, this base plate is from a Mr. Gasket air cleaner for like a 2-barrel carburetor, but it's I think it's like 3.5 to 4, maybe 4 inches wide. All I did is I cut off the sides. I cut the lip off the side of it, so I just had the plate, base plate. And it comes with this little plastic insert, and what I had to do is, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. Here, I have to flip it over. There we go. I cut out this little notch on each side. Now down here on the carb, you got the anchor piece that holds the carburetor air cleaner on. So those little parts that got cut out fit right around the outside of this. So then this base plate, you just put it on here, line it up, press it down into place. And then another thing I did too, just to make sure it's got a good seal, I went and bought like a roll of this 5/16, 3/8 by 5/8 or whatever it is, weather stripping, real soft gray weather stripping, and I put that on there, and I'm going to put it on the top of this. But anyway, the other thing that I know that helps out quite a bit on flow, even on the 1-barrel, 2-barrel, this is a Canon Air Filter. It's almost a 3-inch tall air filter. Can't remember what the measurements are. It's like 9 point something, right, really close to 10 inches. But it's a E1100 air filter, and the Canon made these for like the stock 2-barrel air cleaners for like the 60s and 70s Mopar factory air cleaner housings. Anyway, it fits perfect. Line it up, fits perfect on this 10-inch air cleaner. And like I said, I had to take the factory bolt out of this bracket, put a longer bolt in here, and you might have to bend it a little bit, and then so it don't back out, I put a nut down on this top. Anyway, put it right on there, and then I got my factory wing nut. That stupid bird, that guinea. My folks have a chicken coop with a rooster and 3 hens and a guinea, and that thing, when it starts squawking, it won't shut up. But anyway, there it sits, and it flows really well. And I noticed a big difference in fuel economy. Did it gain a whole bunch of horsepower? No. Did it gain maybe a little bit? Yes. I noticed a big difference in it and how it runs, how cool. And at one point, I'm thinking about making a aluminum. I'll have to custom make it to kind of fit the design of the intake and whatnot. I'm going to put a little bit of a aluminum heat plate in here to keep the carb cool during the summertime, because that's one thing that these, besides taking care of the vapor lock issue on these, I'm going to be running I run 3/8 aluminum fuel line back to my 16-gallon RCI racing fuel cell in the trunk. But it still, during the summertime here in Missouri, it gets pretty hot, and you still get vapor lock sometimes, so I'm going to run a vapor line. But even with that, on these Slant6s, they can still cause the heat can cause the fuel in the carburetor to percolate like an old coffee pot and bubble out and cause hard starts and stuff like that. So I'm going to make a custom. Maybe I might do it out of thick aluminum diamond plating from like Lowe's or Menards or something, and kind of fit the pattern of the intake or something, and then have it come out like square or semi rectangular underneath the carb to help keep the heat off the carburetor. I ran a really thin one, just a regular old thin rectangular one, years back, and it was too thin because it kind of was flimsy, but it did the job. It didn't look very good, but it did the job. And I know you could touch the carburetor, pop the hood on a 100-degree day, pop the hood, and the rest, everything in there would be hot as hell. But it was, I mean, my engine wasn't overheating or anything, but everything would be hot to the touch. You could touch that carburetor and it'd be like touching a cold can of beer. It was pretty nice. It didn't have frost or anything on it, but it was chilly, which is good. It's a good thing that it's running cool. But other than that, that's pretty much what I was going to cover, was the Slant6 stuff, the stock mods that you can do at home with very little money or parts. Oh, and then there was one other thing. I don't have it on here. I took it off. I've only seen them sold at Lowe's, but right here on my heater hose, I run it on the Dart. I run it on my D150, and I even put it on my mom's white Jeep all the way up there, the 96 Jeep. Bypassed the factory heater core valve, the switch or whatever you want to call it. I don't know the technical term for it. It's usually made out of copper or brass, and the older ones had the choke cable that you could open and close the heater core valve, and then the newer ones from the 70s on up had vacuum assist. Anyway, those are made out of plastic. I just got tired of them not working or rotting out or whatever, so on this one and the other vehicles I went and bought a boiler valve, little open and close boiler valve, 5/8, comes with the male fitting or male ends on each side with the little rings around it, so when you use your hose clamps, it won't slide off. I run the heater core all winter, and then during the summertime I just turn the valve off, and it looks cool. It's like something you put it on a rat rod, or something custom. 12 bucks I think it was at Lowe's, but it makes a big difference during the summertime when you don't have all that heat going into the heater core and into the passenger compartment. And because I usually have I don't have AC on any of the vehicles. The Jeep does, but we don't run it unless we absolutely have to, unless it's just a really super hot day or night. But I usually have the vents open, the side vents, and the vent down there by the floor by the heater core during the summertime for the Dart and for my truck and everything. And I noticed a big difference. It doesn't heat up like it does. It's a lot cooler in there. You're not sweating as much. But figured I'd share that with you. If you guys want to actually see the valve or something, let me know. I'm over on Facebook as well. It's I'm in the A-body groups on Facebook and the Dodge D150 groups as well. I got photos, and I also belong to the XJ Nation, which is the XJ Jeep group on there as well. If you guys want to see it, or let me know, and I'm also on Instagram as Mopar Man 1978 as well, if you want me to post a photo of it. But anyway, just thought I'd show you and tell you about the mods I did for stuff that you got laying around the house, or stuff that doesn't cost very much. Maybe some of the stuff I already talked about has already been covered on other channels, but maybe some of you guys on there haven't seen that stuff. So this is what I do. I don't have a lot of money. Kind of like living paycheck to paycheck, trying to make ends meet. So nothing fancy here. If you like my stuff, hit the like button and subscribe. Got so many other channels I could mention on here, but there's too many, but they're all great Mopar channels. And some of them not only cover Mopar, they cover other stuff too, like Uncle Tony's Garage, Nick's Garage. But just because I didn't mention it in the listings or on the video doesn't mean I don't like your channel. I like your guys' channel. Everybody that I've subscribed to, I have no issues with you or your content. So, and it is about community, not competition. So, some people should learn that out there. But hope you like this video, and hope you have a good day.